Will President Trump's border wall plan lead to a government shutdown? There's still time to find a solution, but the scene at the White House today shows a compromise will be difficult. And Time magazine recognizes the Guardians. Journalists who gave their lives and their freedom for their work are named Person of the Year.
If we had a wetsuit and a tank, some bad stuff could happen.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry building Navy vessels and repairing them. KPBS media partner iNewsSource looks at the security issues for San Diego's shipyards.
I really, honestly, truly believe that the Julian volunteer fire department can provide better services than the county or CAL FIRE.
And how Julian residents are working together to try to save their volunteer fire department. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Susan Murphy. The mayor of Imperial Beach says he's been informed of another large sewage spill from Tijuana. Serge Dedina announced today that 6 to 7 million gallons are flowing into the Tijuana River Valley per day. Dedina says the notification came from the International Water Boundary Commission. The agency was recently sued by local governments that allege it's not doing enough to enforce laws that could prevent repeated sewage spills. The problem is with poor infrastructure in the city of Tijuana. The border wall and potential government shutdown led to a tense confrontation today at the White House. December 21st is the deadline for Congress to pass a spending bill. President Donald Trump says he wants $5 billion. He needs votes from Democrats in the Senate. Right now, the only offer is to maintain funding for border security at current levels. Cameras were rolling in the Oval Office when Democratic leaders and the president argued over the issue.
This is the most unfortunate thing. We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad,
let us no.
It's
but
called transparency.
I know it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we wanted to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without saying to the public.
We need border security. That's what we're going to be talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. This country needs border security. The wall is a part of border security. Let's have a talk. We're going to get the wall built, and we've done a lot of wall already.
We do not want to shut down the government. You were called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what
because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing with our military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said
without
a
wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives, you have the votes. You should pass it right now.
No, we don't have the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House,
and we don't have.
You could bring it up right now today.
Excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we could get passed very easily,
okay,
and we do.
But
the problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and they won't vote.
That's not the point, Mr. President. The point is that there are equities to be weighed. And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this.
If he sticks to his position for a $5 billion wall, he will get no wall, and he will get a shutdown.
He does not have the votes in the House to pass whatever his agenda is with that wall in it.
Most of those arrested during a demonstration at Borderfield State Park have been cited for trespassing. Monday's march was organized by local activists and religious organizations. 32 people were issued citations and released. One person was taken to jail for assaulting an officer. More demonstrations are planned for this week to show support for Central American asylum seekers. Lawyers for the Trump administration want the Supreme Court to decide who can ask for asylum. Lower courts have rejected a Trump policy announced last month in response to the recent caravan. The president wants to ban anyone who entered the U.S. illegally from seeking asylum. A federal judge recently ruled that people are allowed to request asylum regardless of their legal immigration status. The U.S. military has declared 5 missing crew members from a Marine training exercise dead. They were lost at sea last week near Japan's southern coast. The military decided to halt its search and recovery effort after 5 days. The Marine Corps was conducting a training exercise with a jet and a refueling aircraft when the two collided. 2 crew members were recovered. 1 survived. Waterborne security threats have been a top priority for the Navy since the 2000 terrorist bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen. But iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino has uncovered security gaps at San Diego's shipyards that could be putting billion-dollar Navy ships at risk.
San Diego's 3 private shipyards, BAE Systems Ship Repair, HII San Diego Shipyard, and General Dynamics NASSCO, are responsible for building, repairing, and maintaining Navy ships. And the Navy pays them a lot of money to do that, more than $2 billion since 2017, and the Navy requires each shipyard to provide security, which includes patrol boats out on the water 24/7 guarding the ships. Yet multiple iNewsSource surveillance trips have found that even though the yards are getting taxpayer money to provide those boats, they're not always doing it. And the Navy has known about the lapses for at least 2 years.
That if we had a wetsuit and a tank, some bad stuff could happen.
Michael Owen served in the Marines and has training in anti-terrorism force protection. He and a friend noticed the security lapses in 2016, so Owen wrote to Congressman Scott Peters, who then forwarded the letter on to the Navy.
We generally trust the military. I don't presume to tell the military how to do its job.
But if security is still a concern more than 2 years after that letter, Peters says it raises questions about whether the Navy looked at the issue hard enough. His office has reached out to the House Armed Services Committee to get the maritime security issues addressed.
I suspect that the people who are leading the Armed Services Committee, both Republicans and Democrats, would want to get the answer to this as well.
iNewsSource spoke to representatives from the 3 shipyards. All said they were in compliance with security requirements, but didn't provide evidence that contradicts what our photos and videos show.
The Navy wouldn't answer specific questions about the apparent lack of compliance, saying many of its security measures are classified. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino.
To read the Navy regulations, explore defense spending in San Diego, or see photos and videos from the Bay, go to iNewsSource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Even if a local city does not allow marijuana sales, it won't be able to stop deliveries. California is moving forward with a plan to allow home deliveries across the state. Despite legalization earlier this year, local governments can choose whether to allow permits for marijuana-related businesses. The decision is expected to be finalized next month. The city of El Cajon is looking to regulate dockless bikes and scooters. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says if a proposed ordinance is passed, it would effectively ban scooters and bikes in El Cajon.
The city of San Diego considered banning them in Mission Beach, and Coronado doesn't allow them to be dropped off within city limits. Now El Cajon is looking to limit dockless bikes and scooters too.
It kind of crept up on us like it did on most cities. We started seeing bikes lying around the bushes and abandoned in street corners and in the middle of the street, and we realized that our city, like a lot of other cities, had a problem with this. And so we needed to have some kind of regulatory way to deal with it.
El Cajon is proposing that companies like Lime and Bird would need to make an agreement with the city, covering operation, maintenance, and storage of dockless bikes and scooters.
Basically, we're saying that no companies can dock dockless bikes here unless they come to us and enter into a contract with the city that we would agree upon, the city council would agree on.
Currently, there are no companies who have contracts with El Cajon, so if the ordinance is passed, it would be an effective ban on dockless bikes and scooters.
The issue is not the people riding them. The issue is people abandoning them. And so the bike by itself or the scooter by itself that's in somebody's front yard or in somebody's driveway, they're going to call the city. The city is going to come and collect that.
The City Council is holding a public hearing on the proposed ordinance today. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The council will vote to adopt the ordinance at its next council meeting in January. More freeway closures will impact a portion of Interstate 5 beginning tonight. This is similar to a series of overnight closures last week in the University City area. Sandag crews are doing work on the trolley extension that will close northbound lanes of I-5 from Genesee to La Jolla Village Drive. The closures will last from 10:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next 2 nights. Community activists in Julian are hoping their new fire prevention board can help save the area's volunteer firefighters. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar was at today's swearing in.
Discuss something with public input. We don't even know what it is.
It's been a contentious issue.
Because obviously the state is, underhanded and, They don't have the manpower that they would have if the volunteer corps was here as well.
Dividing the residents in the Julian-Cuyamaca area. Today, 2 new members of the Julian-Cuyamaca Fire Prevention Board were sworn into office. The last Fire Prevention Board voted earlier this year to dissolve the volunteer fire force that had been serving the Julian community since the 1980s. CAL FIRE employees are providing emergency services to the area.
We still have CAL FIRE staff and San Diego County Fire Authority staff that are on engine 256, one of the fire engines based out of Station 56 here in Julian, that are responding and protecting the community of Julian.
But 2 months ago, residents gathered enough signatures to force a vote to try to reverse the decision. Pat Landis is a concerned resident who signed the petition.
I really, honestly, truly believe that the Julian volunteer fire department can provide better services than the county or CAL FIRE here in this area.
A special election will be held on the issue in the spring.
And hopefully when this is over, we can go back to greeting each other in church as if nothing ever happened.
Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
2 new climate change reports warn of major meltdowns at Earth's polar opposites. Researchers with the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration say the Arctic is wrapping up its second hottest year on record, which can be blamed for extreme weather patterns across the globe. The annual Arctic report card reveals the warming is happening at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. Meanwhile, on the other end of the world, in the East Antarctic, NASA satellites have captured evidence of glacier melts. Images show ice streams running into the ocean have thinned and sped up. Climate scientists say if melting continues at this rate, it could have a major effect on global sea levels.
Antarctica has in it enough ice that if it all melted, sea levels will rise globally by over 60 meters. And what we're starting to see are the first signs of some of that ice starting to melt. And so it's completely possible for Antarctica to contribute several tens of centimeters in this century because of the mass that's being lost there.
Predicted climate change impacts in San Diego include hotter and longer heat waves, more wildfires, prolonged droughts, and rising sea levels. A San Diego oceanographer has discovered 2 species of fish that are thriving despite living in ocean waters almost devoid of oxygen. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Scripps Institution of Oceanography researcher Natalia Gallo was told she wouldn't find any fish in the low oxygen part of the Gulf of California. Now, the ocean bottom there is about 1,000 meters deep, and it has less than 1% oxygen content. It turns out she found lots of 2 kinds of fish, a cat shark and a cusk eel. They both thrive there, and Gallo says there is so little oxygen in those deep waters that the ocean there probably shouldn't support life. By comparison, Gallo says humans typically breathe air that has 21% oxygen content.
Even if you are in a place where oxygen now has dropped to 15 to 19%, we already start feeling different impacts of hypoxia on our physiology. And then if we're in an environment where oxygen drops 8 to 10%, then we're getting actual mental failure. And if oxygen drops any lower than that, the consequences are fatal.
Now, these two fish species could be winners if the planet's climate continues to warm. Gallo says these low oxygen spots could greatly expand because it's more difficult for oxygen to dissolve in warmer waters. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A plan to auction hundreds of wild horses rounded up in California is on hold. The federal government is delaying its auction to allow a legal challenge to play out. Activists say the auction would be illegal because some of the horses could end up in foreign slaughterhouses. Nearly 1,000 horses were rounded up in October in the Modoc National Forest in northeastern California, among a herd of 4,000. The Forest Service says the land can't support a herd of that size. The Environmental Protection Agency is likely to approve limited antibiotic use in citrus trees. Capital Public Radio's Julia Mietrich has more on what this could mean for California's farmers.
Oxytetracycline is used to treat pneumonia in humans. California citrus is vulnerable to a devastating bacterial disease called Huanglongbing. The antibiotic would be used to treat trees afflicted by HLB so it doesn't spread among commercial citrus groves. The Center for Biological Diversity, an environmental advocacy group, opposes the EPA's move. Nathan Donnelly says the antibiotic is already being used to treat fire blight in apples and pears in Washington state.
If it were to be approved on citrus crops, citrus greening is a much more widespread disease, and this could really rapidly ramp up the use of this antibiotic, which of course could eventually lead to things like further antibiotic resistance.
Dr. Beth Grafton-Caldwell, a UC Riverside research entomologist, disagrees. She says only citrus leaves would be treated and the antibiotic doesn't circulate in the tree's fruit. Plus, she says applications would be restricted to
orchards that are nearby HLB infections. That's limited to Riverside and maybe a little portion of Orange County.
Next spring is the earliest the treatment would be used in California. In Sacramento, I'm Julia Mietrich.
I hope you had a wonderful day today. It was awfully cloudy out there this morning. Some of the interior areas may have seen a couple of showers in spots. Mostly dry. We have all this moist air coming in out of the south. To the north of us, things are looking pretty quiet in northern California for now. Temperatures tonight in Oceanside, 44 degrees. Borrego Springs at 45, clear conditions. And Chula Vista sitting at 50. Now tonight, it's going to be clearing out. We have a shift in the winds, so an offshore flow. And also temperatures, they will be increasing. Pleasant conditions, lots of sunshine for everyone. And again, even in the morning time, not as cloudy, certainly as it was today. We'll reach 66 in Oceanside, San Diego around 67 degrees, and El Cajon coming in at 72. In the mountains, we're going to be in the 50s with plenty of sun. Now, here's what it looks like for late week. Dry as usual and sunny. Taking a look at the extended forecast for the coast, expect to see temperatures reach 71 degrees Thursday. In the mountains and the passes, could see some breezier conditions. Friday, it is going to be sunny with a few clouds around, dropping down to 67. That's around average, and it's going to remain sunny throughout the weekend. Inland, it's going to get up to 76 degrees by Thursday. And Friday, just a few clouds around. The rest of the weekend, beautiful. We're in the low 70s with plenty of sunshine to enjoy. In the mountains, a bit breezy Thursday. Again, Santa Ana winds light to moderate, so be careful while you are driving through those passes, canyons and mountains at 52 degrees. And on the rest of the week, it's going to be in those low 50s with plenty of sunshine. Our lows, notice, they're going to be in the 30s, so getting pretty chilly overnights. In the deserts, we have lots of sun, 70 degrees on Thursday, dropping down to the upper 60s Friday. The coolest day of the week, and then the weekend, sunny and nice, very comfortable with our temperatures in those low 70s. Our overnight lows, they will be in the 40s. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump spars openly with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer over a government shutdown and the border wall. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Time magazine's Person of the Year for 2018 is not an individual. This year, the distinction is shared among journalists, some of whom gave their lives while doing their jobs. The Guardians and the War Against Truth is how Time is describing the group. They include journalists in the U.S. and around the world. Time's executive editor says their work and the importance of a free press are worthy of the recognition.
Specifically, we're looking at Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi Arabian journalist who was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. We're looking at two Reuters journalists, Hua Lon and Chao So-u, who have been in jail actually 1 year tomorrow. We're also looking at a CEO of a Philippines website called Rappler, Marissa Reza. This group, including the Capital Gazette journalists, we think best encapsulate some of the major trends of this year. I think we are trying to make a statement insofar as we're trying to draw attention to the importance of a free press and the pressure that journalists operate under today. Time is, of course, part of that process, part of journalism in the world, but we want to pay attention to the particular zones where we feel like people are operating under immense pressure, and hopefully cause people to reflect about the role that facts and information, the idea of putting a local newspaper and its staff on the cover, I think is a really important statement about the value of local journalism today.
Time is printing multiple covers of its Person of the Year edition. They will go on sale later this month. Members of Congress grilled the CEO of Google today. Republicans who called the hearing have accused the company of suppressing conservative voices in its search results. Google's CEO is trying to mend political fences by appearing at today's hearing. The company declined an invitation earlier this year by the Senate to talk about foreign election meddling.
For our country and economy to grow stronger, the American people must be able to have trust in the great companies of the 21st century. We can alleviate some of their concerns today with transparency and candor. I hope we can begin to restore trust in the technology companies that shape our world, but we need answers.
Protecting the privacy and security of our users has long been an essential part of our mission. We've invested an enormous amount of work over the years to bring choice, transparency, and control to our users. These values are built into every product we make.
Google CEO was also asked today about its work in China. The company says it will not launch a censored version of its search engine in the country. California's largest city has approved new regulations for short-term home rentals. Los Angeles will implement the new rule for homeowners who rent out rooms and homes through sites like Airbnb. The city has debated the issue for more than 3 years. San Diego passed its own rules earlier this year, but scrapped the plan a short time later. LA's rules will take effect in July. One reason for the decline of traditional malls is the rise of online shopping. Now, as more stores go empty, some of those same online retailers are seeing an opportunity in brick and mortar. AP reporter Krista Faria has the story.
Step inside this mattress store, and the experience could put you to sleep.
It's the first version of us really starting to experiment with what would a sleep shop look like.
Casper is among a growing number of retailers who started online and are now opening up brick and mortar stores.
Starting online enabled us to actually subvert the entire ecosystem. And so how do we shift from being disruptors of the mattress industry into really helping people sleep better?
Experts say increased competition for online ad views has made it costlier to attract eyeballs. That, along with higher vacancies in malls, have created big incentives for brands to open up physical stores.
I think at the beginning, it was really more about we versus them. I think they realized and saw that they actually could sell more online if they had a physical store.
The mall at Short Hills in New Jersey has embraced so-called disruptor brands and stores that offer a more immersive experience to help lure shoppers back.
Opening the doors to a shopping center doesn't necessarily result in the sales that we used to see 20 or 30 years ago. Mall owners like ourselves need to be really creative and offer not only the best stores, but the right experiences for our customers.
Inside Canada Goose, customers can test out how warm their jacket will keep them in a cold room. Untuck It, a men's shirt brand designed to be worn untucked, offers shoppers whiskey while they browse. Casper plans to expand to 200 stores across the country in the next few years. A surprising about-face for companies who once never dreamed of opening up a physical store. Christopher Fourier, Associated Press, Los Angeles.
The annual Oscar ceremony features an award for lifetime achievement in film, and soon the Golden Globes will have a similar award for television. Today, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association announced the award will be named after Carol Burnett. She will also be the first recipient. During her 50-year career, Burnett was the first woman to host a sketch variety show. The Golden Globe ceremony will happen January 6th. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The San Diego Unified School District is considering a new round of budget cuts. On Morning Edition, we'll have a look at some of the choices the board might have to make. And on Midday Edition, an interview with the new San Diego City Council President, Georgette Gomez. We'll ask about her agenda at City Hall now that Democrats have a veto-proof majority. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.